everyone, let's go and take a look at the Nintendo Switch 2 and compare it against the PlayStation 5 and see which particular gaming console is the better one for you. Now, the big thing I will definitely tell you is that when it comes down to both of these particular consoles, if you're taking a look at the PlayStation 5, the Slim Edition, or the disc or digital version, whichever one you have, this is going to be a completely different type of experience than the Nintendo Switch 2. But at the same time, there's also something really important to keep in mind here too, because if you are planning on going through and getting something like the Switch 2, you do have a bit more capability when it comes down to having a portable console and a dedicated gaming console. So I do feel like that is a very big thing to keep in mind because, although when you dock them up, they are giving you different types of experiences for the most part. They're giving you similar experiences. When you go ahead and kind of separate them, the Switch 2 does have the component of kind of being separated. So that might be one thing to keep in mind. But if you want to, at any point in this video, pick up either one of these types of, consoles, you can get that from the description down below, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these consoles, the PlayStation 5, which, is the original ones, they essentially came out back in 2020. They did get a refreshed PlayStation 5 Slim model, which came out a couple of years after that. It was basically like a year or two ago. And those consoles, for the most part, definitely give you a really good type of experience. I was a very big fan of the PlayStation 5s, and these are still very good, very high quality consoles. These things still look very good. The digital one was about $449. The disc model was about $499. So there was a disc and digital version, so there was a slight difference with that. The exterior of these consoles were pretty big. I like the design of them a lot, but they were fairly large consoles. These things are not really portable. The Slim one is a lot more portable than these ones, but the big thing you're going to have to remember here for the most part is that if you are planning on going through and picking up a console, you are essentially going to have to remember that within these types of consoles, they're basically kind of, they're not really portable devices, right? So if you're comparing like a docked Nintendo Switch to like a docked PlayStation 5, then you're going to probably get a little bit more of a similar type of experience. But if you're comparing them like normally, then it's going to be a little bit different when it kind of comes down to it from that side. But when I look at these types of consoles, I still think they look pretty good. And I'm still a huge fan of the PlayStation 5s. On the other hand, with something like the Nintendo Switch 2, this is essentially a dedicated gaming console, but also a hybrid console at that. So within these types of consoles, you're going to be getting a little bit of a different type of experience. So that right there is a very important thing to keep in mind there from that side. Because if you're planning on going through and getting these types of consoles, you're definitely going to be able to go through and get a console that's going to be giving you a slightly different type of experience when it kind of comes down to it. So this one is going to be giving you that dedicated like gaming experience on that side, which is really cool. Then on the other side, it's also going to be able to go through and give you like a portable gaming console at that as well. So that is a really, really cool thing to basically have there. And I, for one, I'm a massive fan of that. If I'm about to go through and pick up a gaming console, I think that is a really nice thing to basically be able to have there. Now, with the Nintendo Switch 2, the display you're getting on this, it is it's an 7.9 inch display. It's a LED display or LCD display. And I do think that is a really nice looking type of display that you're getting inside of that type of console. So, even though it's not the best, craziest, highest resolution display of all time, it still is like a really nice looking thing. It's a really nice looking display. And like I said, I do think if you're going to go through and pick up a gaming console, this is a pretty good type of experience you're going to be able to get there. I love it that it's portable, and I love it that you can also go ahead and pick up a gaming console from that side and be able to get a pretty solid experience. So I think that is one of those other things to keep in mind there as well. When it comes down to pretty much the price tag of them, the Nintendo Switch 2 costs about $449 right now. The PlayStation 5, the Slim model is pretty much around that same price tag. But once again, it kind of depends on which way you kind of want to look at it, right? Like with something like the Nintendo Switch 2, that type of console, because you can take it out with you, it's a portable gaming console. The only thing PlayStation 5 has going for it that's similar is the PlayStation Portal, but you still have to be connected to Wi-Fi. Like you can't necessarily be in a car and play those types of games or anything like that. So that might be one thing to kind of keep in mind there. Unless you have Wi-Fi, then you won't probably be able to go ahead and kind of adjust it that way, which might be okay. But like I said before, that is just one of those other minor things to keep in mind there. Now that kind of covers it up from that side. When it comes down to the gaming library, there are a bunch of games available for both of these consoles. So both the PlayStation 5 and the Nintendo Switch 2 give you the capability of basically installing and playing a bunch of different games. So there's like an endless amount of games that you can theoretically play on this type of console. And I do think that right there is a very nice thing to basically have. So you can go through, pick up either one of these types of consoles and still get a bunch of games because they're both very much backwards compatible. So that right there is a very important thing to keep in mind there as well. And if I'm about to go through and pick up a console, that is kind of one of my most favorite things going on here, right? Is to be able to go through and buy a console that is going to be giving you that type of experience. Now, with that being said, another important thing to kind of keep in mind here too is the fact that if you're going through and if you're going to go and like kind of grab some of these consoles, you're going to have to remember that some of these gaming consoles, they are probably going to be better off if you essentially, buy some used games or buy some used gaming consoles. And with something like the Nintendo Switch 2, this thing just came out, so there's not really going to be any like used options available. Whereas on the PlayStation 5s, these things have been out for a long time, so you have the capability of basically going through and getting advantage of those types of gaming consoles because they're so much cheaper. So that might be one other thing to keep in mind there as well. When it comes down to the power, both of these consoles are very, very powerful. So they're both very fast. They're both going to be able to give you a bunch of power and a bunch of capability. The Nintendo Switch 2 is a little bit more surprising to me because that is kind of a gaming console that is portable, and I'm surprised that that particular game console is able to give you that good of an experience, for being like a portable type of gaming console. So I feel like that right there is also another really cool advantage to have there. And if I'm about to go through and pick up a gaming console, that is kind of a nice type of experience somewhat to kind of have there. So although it's not like the biggest deal in the world, it is another really nice thing to have. And like I said, the games available for the Nintendo Switch 2, and for the PlayStation 5, there is a ton of games available for those consoles. So you're not really going to feel like you're missing out on too much there because both these gaming consoles are going to be giving you a fairly solid experience when it comes down to it from that side. And I feel like that right there is another really, really important thing to keep in mind there when it comes down to these types of devices. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video and to answer the question, what I will tell you is that in my personal opinion, I definitely do think something like the Nintendo Switch 2, that is probably the gaming console that I'd look at as probably being a better console for my use case. I feel like if I'm about to go through and pick up a gaming console, that is the one that I would probably think about as probably being the better one, maybe. Like I feel like that one is going to be a very, very good one for the most part, and that's just kind of what's going to end up happening here. I feel like with the PlayStation 5, this one is also a very good type of console. This is one of those types of consoles that I look at, and I do think this is this is one of the best consoles you can still buy, but I feel like if I'm about to go through and pick up one, it might be the Nintendo Switch 2 right now because it is a dedicated gaming console as well. And going through and buying a dedicated gaming console makes this type of console stand out that much more. And I feel like that right there would be a kind of a good advantage for these types of devices when it comes down to that side. So although it's not the biggest deal in the world, it is one of those things that I look at, and I'm genuinely a much bigger fan, I think, of the Nintendo Switch 2 right now than I am of the PlayStation 5. But I still love the PlayStation 5. I still think that is a really good console, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But as of right now, that's kind of how this console holds up in my personal opinion. So from that side, that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.